Hello and welcome to a presentation about offshore wind development in New York. I am Tony DiLernia, and viewers may recognize me as someone who's been involved in New York and East Coast fisheries issues for the past 45 years. My past experience includes serving as Director of Maritime Technology at Kingsborough Community College, membership in the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council, and also as an owner or captain for both the Bluefin Fleet in Freeport, New York, or rocket charters operating from Manhattan in New York City. Because of my experience in New York fisheries, I've been asked by the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, also known as NYSERDA, to serve as an offshore wind energy liaison to the recreational community. Over the next few minutes, I will describe the ongoing development of offshore wind energy in the New York region. But before I begin, please join me as we watch a short video produced by Anglers for Offshore Wind Power as they describe the first ocean wind farm in the waters offshore of Block Island, Rhode Island.
So today we took a trip off of Block Island to see the Block Island wind farm, and these are the only 5 turbines in the entire country that are in the water. It's a completely different experience to look at them online or in a book and to fish underneath them. It's a very cool experience.
It's just phenomenal with recreational anglers. They are in awe of the majestic turbines, and they're so extremely interested in what the wind farm is doing for habitat and fish, in the environment in general. From a recreational perspective, we think it's a very positive thing. We see the structure is a great resource and habitat for recreational fishing. There's an abundance of fish because of the new habitat that has been created from 80 or 90 feet worth of structure there on each pylon.
We were catching fluke today, like in and around the wind turbines. The fish were there. I believe it's going to provide a lot more benefit to sport fishermen. These artificial reefs that are going to become their own small ecosystems that are going to attract new baits. It'll be a good thing for concentration of fishing effort.
It has had a very positive impact in my industry. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters that have charter boats, some a little bit larger than mine, actually have enhanced their business with tours of the wind farm.
We are cheerleaders for doing it right. And from the recreational fishing perspective, that means guaranteed fishing access. It means a commitment to ongoing scientific studies to monitor the fish that we care about. And it means opportunities for everybody to be able to provide public input.
As a charter captain, the fish that I catch in the ocean today is vastly different than 5 or 10 years ago. Ocean wind, because of its renewable energy aspect, is extremely important for us to stem the tide with climate change.
I think today we not only saw the first United States offshore wind farm, I think today what we saw was the first United States offshore wind showroom. I think it was built as an example to show the nation how it could be done well.
So, who are the players in the development of offshore wind? First, on the federal level in Washington, D.C., there is the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, also known as BOEM, which is part of the U.S. Department of Interior. BOEM are the landlords of the lease areas and oversee the leasing process, which includes permitting, site locations, environmental construction, and operational plans. Then there is New York State. New York State regulates activities related to offshore energy development, which includes policy development to guide decision-making, the engagement of stakeholders such as fishermen, and workforce development. Finally, there are the developers or the companies that design, finance, build, and operate the projects. The developers must meet all federal and state requirements and are required to remain involved with the stakeholders through the development and operation of the projects. New York is committed to 100% clean, carbon-free electricity by 2040. This initiative is the most aggressive in the nation. By 2035, New York State anticipates offshore wind will produce 9,000 megawatts of electrical power, enough to power 6 million homes, or 30% of the state's electrical load, while creating 10,000 new jobs. So, why offshore wind? As you can see, offshore wind has an enormous potential for clean, renewable, locally produced power, while at the same time creating thousands of new jobs and avoiding the production of greenhouse gases, which contribute to climate change. Offshore wind turbines continue to grow in size, and the latest are almost 3 times the height of the Statue of Liberty. The New York Bight, the offshore area from Cape May, New Jersey to Nantucket Island, is ideally suited for the development of offshore wind energy. The relatively shallow waters of the continental shelf, the high population density, and the strength and consistency of wind all combine to favorably support the development of offshore wind farms. This map shows in blue the wind energy areas that have been leased by BOEM. All the locations are in federal waters outside of the 3-mile limit that defines state waters. The light and dark green areas represent additional wind areas BOEM is considering for leasing in the near future. This will be particularly important to New York and New Jersey, where the proximity to major load centers can yield advantages in project economics, electrical grid efficiencies, reliability, and support growth. Currently, there are 4 projects under contract with the state of New York. The Empire Wind 1 project, owned and operated by the developer Equinor, is located 18 miles offshore of Jones Beach. And the Sunrise Wind project, owned and operated by the developer Ørsted, is approximately 30 miles east of Montauk Point. These 2 projects were part of New York's 2018 wind solicitation effort. For these projects, port facilities are anticipated to be in the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, the Homeport Pier, and the Arthur Kill Terminal in Staten Island, as well as locations in Port Jefferson Harbor on Long Island's North Shore. Electricity from these projects is planned to enter the New York State power grid at the Gowanus substation in Brooklyn and the Holbrook substation on Long Island. Construction for both the Empire Wind 1 project and the Sunrise Wind project is expected to begin in 2022, with commercial operations starting in late 2024. The 2 new projects were awarded to Equinor as part of New York's 2020 offshore wind solicitation. These projects are the Empire Wind 2 project, located in the same lease area as Empire 1, only just southeast of Empire 1, and the Beacon Wind project, located in the Massachusetts and Rhode Island wind energy area, south and east of the Sunrise Wind project. These 2 new projects total 2,490 megawatts, with Empire Wind 2 connecting to the grid at the Barrett substation on Long Island, and Beacon Wind connecting to the New York power grid at the Astoria Queens substation. Additional construction and scheduling details about these new projects will be shared once contracts are signed and made public. Many of you may also be familiar with the South Fork Wind Farm, which is approximately 30 miles east of Montauk. This 130 megawatt project was awarded by a local utility, the Long Island Power Authority, or LIPA, through a separate non-state process, and plans to connect to the grid on the eastern end of Long Island. It is anticipated that the Port of Albany, the Port of Coymans, located south of Albany, and the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal will be used as turbine manufacturing and partial assembly locations. The parts will then be shipped by barge on the Hudson River to the wind farm locations for final assembly and installation. Here we see an expanded view of a possible layout for the Empire Wind 1 project. Each black dot indicates a single wind turbine or tower. The final spacing has not yet been determined, but it is anticipated that the towers will be between 3/4 to 1 mile apart. The turbines would connect into an offshore substation, illustrated by the yellow square on the diagram, and that substation would collect power from the various turbines and export the collected power via a buried transmission cable to the shoreside substations. It is anticipated that all cables will be buried several feet below the sea floor. New York State has 2 technical working groups associated with environmental and fisheries issues. These are the Environmental and Technical Working Group and the Fisheries Technical Working Group. These groups are set up to discuss and provide feedback to the state to help with addressing specific topics of concern as they may arise. It has been noted that the companies building the projects through the state process must create mitigation plans, and all data must be made available to the public as soon as possible. Additionally, as part of New York's 2020 offshore wind solicitation, the winning bidder will now be required to support regional wildlife and fisheries monitoring in the amount of $10,000 per megawatt. Based on the 2020 offshore solicitation, Equinor will provide approximately $25 million split equally between wildlife and fisheries for regional monitoring. As you can see from this slide, the development of an offshore wind farm is a multi-step process. As of September 2020, the developers of the 2 approved contract projects are in the permitting and approval process, and construction is anticipated to begin in 2022. Additional details will be shared on the newly awarded projects once a detailed schedule has been set. So, what are the parts of an offshore wind turbine? Each turbine or tower consists of 4 basic parts. The blades, which are joined at the hub, which houses the nacelle, the unit that produces the electricity. And the entire structure is supported by the tower, which connects, as we'll see in the next slide, to the seafloor via a foundation. Currently, there are 3 types of tower foundations: the monopile that is driven into the seafloor, the gravity base, which simply rests on the seafloor and relies on weight for stability, and the jacket or truss foundations, which relies on a number of legs to be driven into the seafloor. The truss foundations are currently the foundations that are in use at the Block Island Wind Farm, offshore of Block Island, Rhode Island. Equinor, the developer of Empire Wind 1 and 2, the 2 projects offshore of Jones Inlet, anticipates using a gravity base, while Ørsted, the Sunrise Wind developer east of Montauk Point, expects to use monopiles or jacketed bases. Equinor's Beacon Wind project will also most likely use monopile or jacket bases, but specific details are still being evaluated. Fishermen have taken notice of the scour protection that will be placed around the base of each foundation. Rock and gravel will be placed around each foundation, extending a few hundred feet in each direction. And fishermen anticipate this rock and gravel will develop into an artificial reef, which will attract fish. Many fishermen ask, will I be able to fish in the wind energy areas? The U.S. Coast Guard has issued clear guidance regarding fishing access in each wind farm, and has clearly stated that fishing access will be fully permitted, except for the short period of time when each tower is under construction. Others have expressed a concern regarding electromagnetic fields and the effect these fields will have on marine species. EMFs are magnetic fields emitted by electrical power cables on the seafloor. Sharks and rays can detect these fields, and there's some evidence that suggests some crustaceans can also detect the electromagnetic fields. The insulation around the transmission cables prevents much of the EMF from entering the surrounding area, and the emission of the EMF is further minimized with the standard use of cable sheathing, and when cables are buried several feet below the sea floor. Recent studies have revealed no significant disruption to biological processes of marine species have been observed by the EMF. Currently, there is only one commercial-scale offshore wind farm operating in U.S. waters, the Block Island Wind Farm, which consists of 5 towers of turbines. Join me as we watch a short video about the Block Island Wind Farms.
I've been fishing in the Narragansett Bay and Point and Judith locations in Rhode Island since I was able to walk. It's been a long time, and I've been going after all types of fish. Anything that can hook a line, I go with it. I have fished at the wind turbines. I've caught recently a 35-inch bluefish and a 34-inch striped bass. And I've been catching a bunch of small black sea bass, as well as a couple of triggerfish as well, which is unique in that area.
Block Island Fishworks has been open since 2002, and we've been running charters every year since then. There isn't any place better in New England to fish. It's a great place to raise a family. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to be able to do all those things. The Deepwater Wind Farm project started over 10 years ago, to my knowledge, when we started hearing about it. My concern initially right out of the gate was, is it going to restrict any fishing, recreational, commercial, or otherwise? Are we going to be able to fish around them? Is there going to be a security zone? Those concerns, as they played out, from my perspective anyway, really diminished greatly as time went on, and then once the project's done, I see the benefit to the actual structures in the water from a fishing perspective immediately. Already, in an empty piece of ocean, you had more life than there was 2 years ago. The wind farm created 5 new spots to go fish, and each one of those turbines is 1 new spot. So
it's an artificial reef. What gets better than that? Fish love structure. They love to hide. You know, you get the mussels that are growing on it, and then you get the fish that are chewing on that, and the whole food chain starts. It's a destination. It's an area that really wasn't fished that much. Now that the mills are there and the talk is out there that we got a good system of fish out there, so there's more and more boats. It's just a benefit. That's a benefit to the island also. Deepwater contacted me to run charters out there for their corporate people and photographers towards the end of the build. So as we were doing that, in the back of my mind, I had a sense that there would be quite a bit of interest of people wanting to come out and see them. The business level picked up more than I expected it to. It continues to grow, and I think next year should be as busy. There's a lot of interest out there, I believe. We'll definitely keep doing the wind farm tours as long as the interest is there. I think it's going to keep growing. We jumped on it, and I'm grateful for that. It's just another piece of that project there that I'm able to gain from.
This view here is a view from the Friend's fishing boat as he approached the Block Island farm during the summer of 2019 to go bottom fishing. While this presentation focused on offshore wind development for New York, many projects are planned along the entire east coast of the United States, I have seen by this figure. For further specific details about these projects, check the BOEM website. Basic information is also provided on the New York State Fisheries Technical Working Group Lease Mapper tools. If you look at each site, you'll see the wind energy area and an arrow going to the name of each developer. Thank you for joining me on this introductory tour of the future of offshore wind, and please feel free to contact me with questions at captaintony@dilmarserve.com. Additional information can be found at www.dilmarserve.com. Thanks again and have a good day.